Gold used to be my nanny's and mother's thing. And by that I mean their wrists, their ears, their necks would gleam with shiny and sometimes heavy gold jewelry, like a chandelier. I kind of low-key hated it. What I liked were silver charm bracelets from Pandora, or just anything not gold. Basically what the white people were wearing. My family's jewelry just looked tacky, outdated, and not stylish. Until one day, everyone started wearing gold again. Suddenly, chunky gold chains were minimalist luxury. Stacked gold bangles became quiet wealth. And gold hoops became timeless elegance. So here's my question. Why was gold once considered tacky? And why is it tasteful again? Hi, I'm Marina, and this is where we unpack the quirks and contradictions of being brown and proud. Today, we're talking about gold, how it's suddenly everywhere in the West again, and what that says about culture, memory, and who gets to shine. Let's start at the beginning. Not the trendy beginning that fashion magazines tend to cite, the actual beginning. Gold in South Asia isn't a trend. It's a 5,000-year-old cultural tradition that predates most of Western civilization. In Hindu mythology, gold isn't just pretty ornaments. It's tradition. It's divine, associated with Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and prosperity. In Islamic history, gold was both sacred and regulated, often as a symbol of divine beauty, but also with specific guidance around its worldly and proper use. In South Asian culture, gold wasn't just about ornamentation. It was also about financial independence. And this is what's really interesting. In a world where women couldn't own property, couldn't inherit land, gold was different. Gold became women's wealth, the only thing that belonged to women, legally and culturally. When my nanny wore gold, she wasn't just accessorizing. She was carrying forward a tradition and also financial security. Today, South Asian women collectively own over 20,000 tons of gold jewelry. That's not hoarding. That's intergenerational wealth transfer. That's financial security passed down from grandmother to daughter in a world where women had very few options. I remember being 12 years old and watching my nanny open her jewelry box. Each piece had a story. A necklace from her wedding, bangles that my nana gifted her from his first job abroad, these beautiful earrings that she bought with her own money and told me that one day she will pass them on to me so that I can use them to build my own life. Because that's what gold was. Insurance. It was security you could wear. But the West saw something different. To them, our gold wasn't sophisticated financial planning. It was native excess, Oriental ostentation, evidence of our cultural inferiority. The Victorian obsession with good taste wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about power. When British colonizers described the subcontinent's use of gold jewelry as excessive or gaudy, they weren't making fashion critiques. They were making moral judgments. Colonial texts are filled with descriptions of women dripping in gold, laden with ornaments. The language isn't neutral. It's designed to suggest that our cultural practices were primitive, unrefined, or lacking taste and sophistication. And this colonial mentality didn't just die with independence. It evolved. By the mid-20th century, Western fashion had codified good taste as minimalist, subtle, restrained. Platinum was sophisticated. Sterling silver was chic. Yellow gold? That was just for people who didn't know good fashion or style. Growing up in the 90s and 2000s, I absorbed these messages deeply. My family's gold didn't feel like it was elegant, it felt embarrassing. I learned to code switch my aesthetic identity. Silver jewelry for school or job interviews because that felt appropriate. And I saved my gold jewelry, my earrings, my bangles for family gatherings to contain it within cultural boundaries. The only thing that I really wanted to wear that was gold at the time was the rainbow hearts. I don't know if anyone remembers them, but that was only because everyone in school had them and they were sort of the cool thing to wear. And growing up in the Middle East, my mum continuously accumulated gold. All our gift money on Eid, for example, would be used to buy gold. But me and my sisters refused to wear most of it. It just felt so uncool. But here's the thing about shame. It has a way of revealing its own contradictions. Even as I was learning to hide my cultural aesthetic practices, I was noticing that people in the West were discovering them. But when they were doing it, they weren't being called excessive or tacky. They were being called edgy or experimental or fashion-forward. The message was really clear. These cultural practices were only acceptable when they were chosen, not when they were inherited, when they were costume, not when they were culture. Fast forward to 2020, the world is falling apart. Inflation is through the roof. And suddenly, everyone's a gold expert. Social media is full of financial influencers telling you to stack gold, diversify with precious metals, and use gold as an inflation hedge. Sound familiar? These aren't new ideas. These are practices my community has maintained literally for over 1,000 years. Meanwhile, fashion is also having its own gold renaissance. Kim Kardashian showing up everywhere in chunky gold chains. Rihanna layering gold necklaces like my Khala Jan at my cousin's weddings. Zendaya in gold hoops that my grandmother would have considered gaudy. High fashion followed suit. Bottega Veneta's gold earrings went viral. Jacquemus started selling chunky gold chains that were identical to what my mother had 20 years ago, just with Italian branding and triple the price tag. Instagram was suddenly full of #goldstack content. But none of these brands were acknowledging South Asian jewelry traditions or gold's cultural origins. The practices were being celebrated and monetized, but the people who created them were once again missing from the story. Even more insidiously, the gold revival was being framed through quiet luxury narratives that positioned Western minimalist interpretations as more sophisticated than traditional South Asian approaches. Today, luxury brands define gold jewelry as elevated or refined. Code words that suggest our approaches to gold jewelry were somehow less sophisticated. So let me get this straight. The same cultural practices that were used to justify our colonization, that were dismissed as evidence of our inferiority, that we were just encouraged to abandon. Those practices are now being celebrated as sophisticated lifestyle choices? Yeah, that sounds about right. In every case, the pattern is the same. Initial dismissal, cultural extraction, Western rebranding, and massive monetization. And the economics are telling. Traditional South Asian gold jewelry often costs less and offers better craftsmanship than Western-inspired pieces. But cultural authenticity doesn't command premium prices. Western branding does. But I do think something interesting is happening. We're reclaiming our aesthetic traditions, wearing our inherited jewelry with pride, refusing to hide our cultural practices. There are South Asian designers creating beautiful contemporary work that honors traditional techniques while speaking to modern aesthetics. And some of my favorite brands and designers in this space, and this is not sponsored by the way, are Bhavya Ramesh, Amrapali, and Nadia Chotani. There are activists working to protect traditional crafts and ensure fair compensation for artisans. There are economists calculating the true cost of cultural appropriation. Because gold never went out of style. We were just convinced to stop seeing ourselves as worthy of wearing it. The next time someone tells you that gold is having a moment, tell them this. Gold has been having a moment for 5,000 years. The only thing that changed was who got credit for recognizing its value. If you made it this far, thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments how gold shows up in your family stories and culture. I love reading your thoughts and comments. They always take the conversation further. Until next time, take care. सोना कितना सोना है सोने जैसा तेरा मन